You mentioned Nvidia, of course, results out overnight, big beats across most of the major lines. The stock was down 2% for the session, but I did notice that after hours it was up kind of another 5% or something. Anyway, revenue in the current period, $108 billion. These numbers are just almost too difficult to get your head around. Gross margin around 74%. Elfreda, where do we start with Nvidia and I guess first of all the share price reaction, but also just digging into some of those beats on consensus?
Yes, I think if you reflect back on the last few years of AI, it's really been the poster child, and the results for Nvidia was, as Mark said, like everyone's just waiting to see what they will report, and then we can extrapolate from there. I think what has happened in the last, at least definitely the last 6 months, has been Nvidia is no longer the exciting new kid on the block. It's become so big. And yes, I think if you look at the underlying trends, it's still growing phenomenally well. It's got amazing margins. And I think the key for us out of the results announced this morning, our time, is really just that 2028 outlook that they've now given us as well. And if you look at that growth, they're still expecting that to grow 70% versus the market's at 45%. That's revenue growth. So for us, that's a very positive outlook. So we continue to like Nvidia, not just because it's actually now relatively cheap, because it has underperformed some of the more high octane stocks in the AI trade. But I think also because it's become more of an ecosystem stock, and they continue to invest quite heavily, not just in their own ecosystem as far as you're now no longer just buying a GPU from Nvidia, you're buying a full stack with the CUDA software on top of it, which is quite a big difference, I would say, relative to a lot of their peers. It has, however, underperformed a bit, and it's because I think it's no longer, surprising, because consensus has actually caught up quite a bit to what is expected. And that's why I mentioned that 28, because we haven't had that number out there yet, and now we do. And they're still surprised. I think the key risk is really just around the circularity of all the debt deals that's being that's happening. And Nvidia's right there in the crux of it, doing deals with everyone from OpenAI straight through to all their suppliers. I think for them it's not necessarily a risk. They just feel in order for them to continue to grow at the level where they see demand, they need to help their suppliers supply enough over that time. And that is why they feel they need to assist in helping with, sort of raising a bit of debt and assisting some of those deals that they need.
Is it easy for you as an analyst to see through those deals and to understand those numbers? Because you do hear people, a lot of the time talking about this specific part of that as one of the big issues they have with Nvidia, and whether not just Nvidia but all of the others in that ecosystem, whether that kind of money is real or if it's just the same dollar chasing itself around and around.
Yes, I think that is definitely the bigger risk around the whole AI trade, is that circularity. And yes, if you look at it from an analyst point of view, there are so many deals happening, and it almost looks like a bit of a toddler drawing something when you look at all the cross deals. But yes, for every company, we do have an understanding of where those deals are signed and what they mean. I think generally speaking, the focus is now more moved to Anthropic and OpenAI as those two companies that's sort of sitting at the top end of that demand ecosystem of the AI stocks. And the Anthropic listing coming up hopefully sometime soon in September, though I think the importance of them are becoming probably a bit higher at this point in time, rather than just all the focus being on Nvidia driving the whole trade.
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine in 10 years Nvidia will be like a boring utility.
I don't think so. It'll never be a boring utility. Maybe a utility,
an exciting utility.
Yeah, exciting one.
Mark, what's your take on Nvidia?
Well, I'm a long-term Nvidia shareholder, so I have a very positive take. Jensen Huang is a genius, and I put him in the same category as Elon as the two best CEOs in the world by far. And now they've joined up together to work on SpaceX's next generation data centers, and also for space as well, which I think is spectacularly clever for Jensen. And there's probably a side deal there as well where SpaceX are probably going to manufacture chips, assuming terafab all happens, and this is a multi-year build-out, obviously, and very challenging. But I'm sure Jensen would be delighted to get his chips manufactured there rather than in Taiwan.
Yes.
So, but anyway, it's a partnership. It's a big deal. And then Nvidia's invested in SpaceX. I think they've got 20 billion in SpaceX or so. And I agree. I don't agree with the circularity argument. There is a lot of there is a lot of connections between Nvidia and its customers, particularly the neoclouds and others, where they're providing their strong balance sheet to help them finance the chips basically to buy from Nvidia. So they're generally, if you look at the way the deals are done, Nvidia is not really risking much. In many cases, they're not risking anything, nearly. And some of them are just backstops on where they're saying, for instance, if you buy Nvidia kits, and if you can't rent it out, we will pay the rent, effectively. So they then, the reason that works is from a lender's point of view. I can look at a new neocloud and say, well, you don't have a long history. How can we lend you $50 billion? We don't know you that well. Whereas the hardware is now being turned into a securitizable product. And Nvidia has done a deal with 6 of the biggest financiers in the world, with BlackRock, etc. And they've all committed to put $500 billion initially in, which is going to be a multi-trillion thing over years, to fund Nvidia processors and AI factories. So Nvidia's been standardising everything, which makes it very easy for a lender to be able to understand what the commercial realities of that is, what they are rather, and then how they can, if someone goes bankrupt, let's say you're a neocloud and you overestimate everything, you can't get the power, whatever, and you lose the business, you can immediately either resell or someone takes that over. So it's very little risk to Nvidia. And then what it's doing, it also gives him a major competitive advantage compared to AMD and Cerebras and others, where he has a product which everyone is happy to finance at low rates, and that's got a lot to do with it. So at very favourable rates. So I think it's brilliant. And Jensen has been moving. He was meeting vertically in the racks. Now he's moved out. If you look at the Taiwan GTC conference, which I recommend anyone who's interested in Nvidia watch the keynote, because that was outside the US and he was talking to a global audience, and he explained how it's all going and what he's doing. It is spectacular. And he's now moved through the whole rack. Basically, it's not just data centers. They're now doing virtually all the PC makers, apart from Apple, have now committed to buy Nvidia chips. I don't know what used to be Intel, it's now in Nvidia. And he's going, apart from phones, he's virtually going all the way through all compute.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very bullish in his ability to maintain his growth rate. And as Elfreda said, the CUDA operating system, the whole thing is a package, and he's really selling. He's basically selling how much, what you can generate per watt, and he's saying he's the most cost effective in the market. Is the bottom line.
Thank you for that. That was a really good explanation of the circularity thing. That's made it a lot clearer for me.
Good.
I hope it has for you as well. So that's a buy.
Yes.
From you. And
Yes, it's a buy
so that
for me
is,
as well.
That's a
You're off to a
double
good start.
buy.
Yeah.
Kick off the day with a double buy.